Almost there. It's gonna go off. I gotta get onto the end of those logs right there. Very gingerly. This is where it's going to begin. And just around that corner is where it's going to get caught. And that is where I was. And that bear den is at the bottom of that tree right there. But check this out. It's actually salt water down there. It's a long inlet, the Alberni Inlet. And there's one of those huge log barges getting loaded up. Well, I haven't a clue where I am right now. I've never been right here before. I've been up and down that salt water in my boat I don't know how many times over the years, but I've never been on this side of the inlet on land before, ever. It looks like there's a big flat estuary down there, down below me. I might go check that out after, maybe, and then see what's up. I know if I go this way on this logging road, I will eventually end up at Nemint Lake. That's where I threw the drone up. That's where I stayed in a little cabin years ago when I was that big, and where my mom and that other woman heard something massive on two legs walk between the cabin and the forest. And I don't have enough time to go that way right now. In fact, I've gone too far. I was supposed to have gone today already because I got to get home for dinner. So I want to go check out that estuary though. Maybe tomorrow I'll go on adventure day to see what's up. So in the meantime, while the planet falls apart, let's get some voices heard here, all right? Get back on track. Feels good to be out in the woods. Holy cow! This is the fresh air is enough to make a huge difference. But anyway, here we go. Here we go. Listen to this. This is titled "Who Sasquatch Really Are." Hey Steve, I've been watching you for over 2 years now. My name is Ed Blunk, and I'm 7 years old. I've been studying Sasquatch for over 50 years. I grew up in the country, spent most of my time in the woods/forest, hunting, fishing, and trapping. I've heard many strange sounds in the woods, but I haven't had a face-to-face encounter. My son and daughter-in-law have had 2 encounters with a Sasquatch, and I will agree, none of us are experts when it comes to Sasquatch / Bigfoot / Sabe. But since the Sasquatch genome study has been done by Dr. Melba Ketchum and research team, and not just hers, but other genome studies have been done and also agree with hers, and yes, they have tried to discredit her, who are putting forth the truth, but that does not change the truth. Sabe / Sasquatch are a human hybrid. The DNA from the mother's side is 100% human. The DNA from the father's side is from a completely unknown being. They are human hybrids, which means they were not here on Earth before humans / mankind was. And Gen 1 26-28 tells us man was created in the image of God and was given dominion over the earth and the animals, over every single living thing that moves on the earth. Sabe was not. Why is it so hard for people to understand Sasquatch were not created by God and were never meant to be on the earth in the first place? A hybrid being was not created by God. And I believe, as does Scott Carpenter and many of us other Christians, that they are a type of off-breed, the Nephilim giants of Gen.ch614, the children of fallen angels taking human women as wives, and many other places that talk about the giants / Nephilim, even after the flood of Noah in the Old Testament. So yes, they know who God and Jesus are, and they know He created humans, but He did not create them, and this is one reason they hate us, humans, so much, and why they tell people the truth when they mind speak to them. There is so much deception going on today, and it's growing worse. Not saying all Sasquatch / Sabe are bad, but then having a fallen angel DNA in them, which fallen angels who fell with Satan come from the dark evil side, and we live in an evil, fallen, satanic world, and it's going to grow worse until Jesus Christ comes back to earth and makes things right again. Now, there will be many who disagree with this, but I believe the truth will come out in the end. Now, when it comes to mind speak, and they speak to people, and them being what they are, just how do these people know Sabe are telling them the truth? They don't. And they are lying to people. And I agree with Scott Carpenter. They cannot be trusted. You've received many emails telling of people seeing them with UFOs, coming in and out of portals from a different dimension, and at times just fading to nothing, etc. They have supernatural abilities, which I believe comes from the fallen angel DNA in them. Sasquatch do not own the forests. They were not given dominion over the earth, as mankind was. We have the right to be out there as much or more than they do. Plus, there are other cryptids out there much worse than Sabe. We are living in the very last of the last days. The end of the age is drawing near, and is one reason we are seeing evil growing stronger in the world. Now, people can disagree, but all you have to do is look around you to know it's true. Sasquatch has been proven to be a human hybrid, so they were never a created being by God. Humans were here first, and Sasquatch would not even exist without human women. That is a proven fact by the genome study. What all they can do and why, we are still learning. But as Scott Carpenter says, and I fully agree, they cannot be trusted. Stay safe out there, Steve, and keep doing what you're doing as we seek the full truth. God bless, always, Ed Blunk. Okay, Ed, thanks for sending that in, man. Just so you know, I've had that same flavor email sent dozens of times. Many people are absolutely 100% convinced they are the fallen angels. They're evil, can't be trusted. And then there's other people who have been saved by them and have coexisted alongside them for many years. And then you hear about the old native tribes who used to trade with them. And they've passed that knowledge down through their storytelling in their communities, right? Take from that what you will, you guys, or leave it. One thing, though, what I wouldn't mind commenting on is when you say that times are going to get worse, evil's here, it's a dark, dirty, nasty world, Jesus will come here and save the day. Now listen, this is how I feel about that. I think there is a whole pile of good on the earth today, and I think there is a whole pile of very strong, determined, good-souled human beings on the face of the earth who can turn it around, who can make a difference, and who can fight the evil and stop it. That's what I think. And that's what I wouldn't mind doing. I would much rather put forth a massive effort to stop and rub out the evil sons of bitches myself, along with many other people, than to just sit back and call the end of times are coming and Jesus is on his way to save our asses. That's just me putting it the rough way, right? But that's just me. I do believe there is hope among us, and I believe we can make a difference, and we can fight the evil and stomp its ass out. But anyway, there's a bunch of valid points they made there. The genome study, the mitochondrial DNA, and what's the other name of the other DNA? I forget, I'm sorry. But it does make sense that if they are originally human female, which the genome study has said numerous times, then you're right. How could they have been here longer than us? Right? Hope that logging show down there isn't too loud for you guys. I'm sure you can hear me. It's better than the echo in the shop or the rain hitting the metal roof, right? But anyway, thanks again for sending that in. A lot of people appreciate that, including me. I appreciate every single email that gets written in and shared here. Okay, you guys? Every single one. Every single person needs to be heard. Some are going to take from some of these emails, some are going to leave it. But at least everybody got their chance to speak. It followed me, another horseback story. Steve, I've been watching your YouTube channel for quite some time now and decided to share this with you. I never actually saw a Sabe, but I believe there was at least one around for a time near my home. I was a country girl living in western New York, not far from the Pennsylvania border, where there are a lot of woods and very hilly. I'd say it was around 1975 of these occurrences. My family owned a small dairy farm and I was about 16 when some strange things began happening. 2 different times we found one of our cows dead in the pasture. It was never clear how each one died. The first one appeared to have no wounds except her bag was completely eaten off. We figured it died of natural causes and some small predator was an opportunist getting a free and easy meal. The second was a bit more strange. Actually, I never found out the condition of the second cow. Perhaps my father purposely kept that from me. Anyway, that morning, when my brother herded the cattle down the lane and over the hill where they went every day, they all congregated at this dead cow, forming a ring around it. And our only bull was in the center with the carcass, lifting his head and bellowing loudly. It was bizarre. Again, a concrete explanation was never determined and soon forgotten. Now to my horse story. After that, I had an encounter with something in the woods one afternoon. As I said earlier, we would send the cows out to open graze over the hill. We had about 125 acres of woods, creeks, and open meadows for them to roam. Sometimes they would not come back in time on their own to be milked, so I would get on my horse, find and herd them back to the barn. That afternoon, I rode down the hill, and then between the 2 wooded hillsides where a creek ran through. I always stopped to water my horse there. All of a sudden, my horse's head flew up from the water, looked into the woods, and then shot out of there, racing for the field on the other side of the hill. I'm riding bareback trying to hang on. He was running so fast and I was pulling so hard of the reins that they actually ripped right off the bridle. Leather reins, mind you, and I fell off. He stopped and I quickly got back up. Oh, lucky. Now, I'm afraid of what scared him so much, and I can't just get back on him. I managed to temporarily tie the broken reins back on his bridle while watching the woods and creek where we just came from. And let me tell you, that was one of the scariest moments in my life, getting that bridle put back together and only a short distance from those woods. Let me know my horse was not the skittish type and had never acted this way. He started to calm down, which in turn helped me to calm down. Now I had to go along the same woods between the 2 hillsides to get to the next field where I might find the cows. As we're walking, too much brush and trees to run through, my horse would jerk his head nervously towards the woods, acting very spooked. It's too dark to see into the thick woods, but something was obviously following along with us. just inside the tree line, out of sight. It was about a 10-minute walk, and my horse continued to be very nervous, looking over to the woods. We got to the next pasture. I stopped. I let my horse calm down, which he did. He started eating some grass when, again, his head flew up and he took off. This time I was prepared and all for getting away from there. To my dismay, the cows weren't in that pasture either, which meant I had to go further up, over a hill of trees to one last field at the top. If I didn't find them there, I had to come back down that hill to go along those same woods where this thing was. I was so afraid that whatever it was going to be in those trees on the hillside on my way back down. Sure enough, the cows weren't there. Luckily, we did not encounter anything coming back down that hill. My brain and senses were on such high alert. We eventually found the cows past that field and in the front part of those same woods closer to the barn. Again, Bigfoot never entered my mind back then, and maybe it was a bear, very rare back then, or a bobcat, or even a dog or a person. I doubt that my horse would react to these, but who knows? I don't think we had coyotes back then as there are now. I didn't smell or hear anything, but there was something there, watching and following us. The last thing to report, and I believe was around the same time frame, was a scream in the night. Sometimes my brother would be out partying with his friends and come home, sit in his truck and listen to music before coming inside. It was about midnight and I stepped out on our back porch to see if he was home, and he wasn't. It was a clear, crisp night, no wind, no sound, and all of a sudden I hear this loud scream come from the hillside on the other side of the valley where I had my scare. However, way at the top, it sounded like a woman being murdered. It stopped, then it did it again. My adrenaline just skyrocketed. I could feel my heart beat in my ears. I just stood there frozen. I waited a couple minutes, but it never made another sound. Anyway, that's my experience. Although I never actually saw whatever it was in those woods that day, I can't seem to shake how it made me feel and what could have happened. I still love the outdoors, and when I go to any woods, my senses are on high alert. Not easy to relax and just enjoy. Keep up the good work, Steve. We know it's a lot. Really appreciate it. Thanks again, Kathy Eaton. Kathy, thank you for sending that. You know, it's funny. A lot of people might not think too much of what you just shared with us because you didn't see anything, right, or whatever. But one thing everybody's got to understand is if you are actually compelled to go online on the internet, possibly come across my channel, and then you're absolutely compelled to seek out one of the emails and sit down and type out a lengthy experience from your past to send to us or here. You got to understand that whoever and everyone that does that, you have to understand and picture the impact that experience had on them. Right? A lot of people might think, oh, well, you're just on a horse getting spooked. Everybody with a horse has been on a horse has been spooked before. It's just the way it is. But not everybody feels compelled to write in a story and share what happened to them that one specific time and try to explain the feelings that they had from an experience, right? So just remember that. If a story if they didn't see anything face to face, don't forget, it's the feeling of being terrified and threatened is absolutely substantial. All right, like it's over the top, okay? And that is what sticks with people for the rest of their life, and that is what changes people when it comes time for them to go out in the woods. And that is what makes people want to write in and share what they experienced with us, right? It's something very substantial. Some pretty big timber down there below me. Sun's going down. Better keep reading. Thanks again for sending that in. Appreciate it. All right. Hair-raising hunting walk. Hello, Steve. How are you, my friend? We've never met yet face-to-face, though for a strange feeling I get every time I watch one of your videos. It's like I've known you for most of my life. Perhaps because we have so much in common. We both hunt, fish, like the outdoors, and don't have a use for people's bullshit when it comes to our way. Haha. Awesome. I'm certainly with you on that. Like I'll mention on one particular video I watched regarding the hunter from Mexico you guided on the goat and sheep hunt. That was a lengthy comment, but if you have to read it, or do, it may express a little something of myself and a bit about my life experiences. all in terms of what's non-life threatening by the actions we take and moving forward without pushing the panic button in a situation many, many miles back in the woods. We make the right decision without any thought of negative impact by using our common sense judgment that, as hunters, deems us a very hardy group of highly skilled, knowledgeable people. We all have common stories, and yours was, as I say, was not much different than mine. Moving on to the story I want to share with you and everyone else who has the pleasure or not, but are fascinated, intrigued by the stories read through the emails you receive. Here is a time when the hair on the back of my neck wasn't enough of a warning signal, but something that I experienced while on a hunt that had my 100% attention and curiosity as to what is out there. It was an early fall day on a mule deer hunt with a few hunting friends of mine. One of those who I mentioned in my comments on another of your videos were up in a well-known area of BC, notorious to many sightings and encounters to what is known as the Sasquatch. I've hunted in this area quite extensively in the early days of many trips into the outdoors in pursuit of an animal to harvest for sustenance to fill my freezer. It was on a particular walk through a watershed and a walk up an overgrown logging road that took me through all aspects of a wooded forest that put every hair on my body up in the air. I had my 30-06 in hand and my shotgun over shoulder with me, so I wasn't in any situation that called for a little extra firepower. Should I run out of ammo with, say, a bear or another animal? Not that I am a bad shot, just a safety backup. This particular logging road had caught my eye numerous times while traveling north up the main line of Harrison Lake, the Morris Valley Road. It was a spur road that went northwest off the main line, called Cartwell Creek Forest Service Road. There's a sign that marks the creek as you cross over it on the main line. It's on a slow bend in the road and almost has the real eerie feeling about it just driving by the turnoff as I was about to walk up. This always had the hair on my neck stand up every time I'd driven by it. I really don't know why this went on, and curiosity got in the best of my fascination of what the F's up this road I needed to experience. Now, I don't know what your knowledge is in this area or even on the particular creek and road I was about to walk up, but this walk had me almost scared shitless before I even took one step up this road. I even stopped dead in my tracks at the start of it, looking into a dark, almost tunnel-like forest right at the start, setting off the internal instinctual alarm that told me either I'm crazy or just plain crazy as to why I wanted to go up this damn road alone on foot, but at least I had firepower. I had plenty enough shells, not only in the odd 6 and shotgun, but as well in my pockets for backup. I don't know why I did this. I didn't ever question it. Maybe it was just hunter instinct should something warrant the action necessary. Whatever the case, I started in through the overgrown entry onto a road that was so eerie every single step of the way for me. I wasn't sure what it was, but something was watching my every damn step, and I mean every step. The hairs of my body just stood up now as I type this now, just like they did back then. It's almost 2022, and when I was on this road back in late 90, roughly so 30 years later, and this road still creeps me out. There's something of spiritual significance for my belief is out there. Wow, that really made me stop typing. I had to stop typing and come back to now. I was right there as I was actually typing this out to where I had to stop my story and sit back and catch my breath, settle down, and focus on continuing my story. What the heck? My laptop froze just now right in mid-sentence of last on the word story. Okay, now this really is effing creepy. My laptop is running like it's way too hot, and it's never been like this at all. I'm going to stop here and we'll send this to you as an unfinished story for now. This is way too weird and creepy for me, holy shit. Alright, that was a different one, right? Typing out a story to us and getting creeped out while doing it and then pulling the pin all together. Alright, well, what can I tell you about this is, yeah, it's always been a hotbed there. I know a friend of mine, he went up there and they had something screaming like off the edge of the logging road like this, down the thicket like right below me. They heard this weird whining, yelling, like something was absolutely distressed, but they didn't have a clue what it was. They started throwing rocks in there and the thing started screaming even louder. And they never went in there to go investigate, although he said he was curious, but something told him not to go in there and do it, right? But anyway, if you want to write back with more of that story, send it away, man. Send it away, and I'll get to it, and I'll share it with everybody. There is so many people that have had experiences up around Harrison, it's ridiculous. And then obviously you follow that valley straight up, and you end up where I was, in Pemberton. And between Pemberton and Harrison, there's so many sightings, it's absolutely ridiculous. All right, here we go. 3 Bigfoot experiences in Tennessee. Steve, I'm not sure if I can get past your junk folder trying to send this again. Thanks, Jim, Knoxville, Tennessee. All right, I'm 55. Name's Jim. My son Matt is 25. We have 3 experiences. I'm ex-military, 10 years, United States Air Force nuclear weapons technician, 463 with top secret clearance. Went on to work for Boeing and eventually did IT work for DOE in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. 30 years with the government. First experience around 2010 was backwoods camping out by Angel Falls, Big South Fork, Tennessee. I was alone. Estimate about 3 a.m. I was in a 1-person low tent. I woke and was staring at nothing but the sound of my tent being shaken. 1 foot from my face, very angrily. I controlled my breathing as my heart was going up in my throat. It was completely silent and I never heard it walk away. It was basically a ghost. I'd gotten that strange feeling something was watching me that day. I never considered Bigfoot or such during those years. Never considered Bigfoot was in Tennessee. I prayed it'd kill me by the neck if it was going to kill me and not drag me off chewing on me. My mind rationed it was a mad bear or something. I fell back asleep and that was the end of that. I didn't have a gun. Oops, I was lucky. He fell back asleep. I don't know if I could do that. Second experience was summer 2018. Son and I were prospecting gold in Coker Creek, Tennessee, north of Chattanooga, Tennessee, to give you an idea of location. 2 significant things happened. 1, a herd ran through the camp, and 2, a bipedal creature ran by in the creek. The 6th night, we woke to hounds chasing something in the area. The sound of stomping feet getting louder and louder. A herd of something was coming. I've experienced what a herd can do. During Desert Storm, I was boar hunting in Balıkesir, Turkey. The Muslim community used pots and pans to run dozens of boars up the mountain towards us. I thought I was going to have to climb a tree. Of course, you can hear the ground, stick cracking, and bushes shaking and all. I stared at the front of my tent, watching intensely, as I knew it was coming to run me over. Somehow, I think they used the sound to terrorize us. As it got louder and louder, it was like beating drums. You could actually feel the pounding earth, very heavy. Same weight of bulls or cows. I was just sitting there waiting, and watching to die. In my mind, I was asking, where in the hell did a herd get loose in the woods, but it was also like drums beating. Louder and louder, and closer and closer. There was no sound of sticks, leaves, snorting, or any ground noise. These things were heavy and solid, but I don't think they actually touched the ground. We joked and called them a ghost herd for a long time. They went through us like we were invisible. I guess they were in spirit? They never touched anything. It was all sound. Matt speculates he heard them running individually earlier across the creek and thought they eventually all got into the step, or eventually all got into step. He speculates there's about 10 Bigfoot running together. He had heard more than I did. I had to get control of my breathing. Matt was looking out both sides of his trailer and saw nothing. During this time, we were both frozen in fear, shock, and confusion. Did not speak. Second part was the bipedal ran past us. We were probably 10 feet from the creek. Right after the ghost herd, I heard something running our way. Doosh, doosh, doosh. And here it comes. Total time, 2 to 3 minutes. As it got closer, it got louder and so clear. It was not splashing or dredging water. The dogs were quiet at this time. Its stride was perfect and long. It jogged by us and slowly started fading as it ran up the creek. It was amazing because the creek was 3 foot or better in places, and it did not slow or miss a step. It was perfect and clearly large steps. It sounded like it was making 5-foot increments or better. This creek is easily up to my knees, and I'm 6 foot, and better at places. We had spent 6 days prospecting this creek. It would have been twice my leg size to do what it did. It was an individual. My son speculates at one time 3 or 4 of them got into sync and also ran by and probably did. They are perfection creatures, high, intelligent, and so smart. We are just dumbasses compared. At that point, I had to check to see if I was dreaming and confirm the bipedal. I set out my tent window to Matt. "Was that 2 feet?" Matt said, "Yeah." "What about the herd?" I said, "Yeah, I heard that. But that was 2 feet, right?" "Yeah." I was so excited about how clear the bipedal runner was. I'd finally, in my life, confirmed there are creatures that must be near 10 foot tall making that kind of stride, and it was so smooth. Super, super exciting. Everyone says bear, deer, etc. I know what I heard, and this was bipedal and strong and a giant. I did not imagine this. This entire event that night went on for an hour or more. At times the dogs ran something up the creek, and you can hear the dogs dredging water. It was very clear. I felt they were playing with the dogs, but occasionally the dogs did get in trouble. The dogs have been chasing things every night that week, but this was the first night they ran it by us. At one point we heard a dog get kicked and go silent. It had a oof bark as its air was knocked out. Then the silenced dog, we figured Bigfoot picked it up and covered its mouth because we eventually heard it barking at the other end of the creek. There were 3 dogs, and one was the main one because it was much louder and was obviously catching up to them at times. This was fascinating as we still sat on our beds totally in fear and wonder. The next day we investigated and talked to a guest at the cabin a few hundred feet away, and they said they came out with guns that night and didn't know what the hell was going on. I did find where the dog and Bigfoot had that little scramble in the grass on the bank by the creek. The dog prints were there, but no other prints. No deer, bear, etc. There were no tracks. This was all done by a ghost? This area of Coker Creek was where the Cherokee Indians would camp for the summer, cool in the mountain, teepees as far as you can see. So this place does have supernatural abilities, I guess. So that was a crazy experience. Third experience is July 2021 on the Tennessee-Kentucky border, where we had put out trail cams for a hobby. It had been 3 years since the Coker Creek experience, and we had already relaxed and forgotten what can happen in the woods. I was backwoods camping and had a fire and dinner and went to bed. About 3 a.m. went out to pee. On the way back in, I seen red eye shine. I did have a red light on. Entering the tent, I joked that something was watching us, and we laughed and went to sleep. I awoke to the top of the trees roaring. I awoke to the top of the trees roaring as they were being shaken to hell. If I tied a rope to the ball of my 4-wheel drive Chevy and tied it on a tree, I could duplicate it. We burn wood for heat, so we live in the country on a farm, and we are not city slickers lost in the woods. We have worked with trees all our lives. It was that powerful, and not something you want to wake up to while sleeping in the woods. I woke Matt and said, "What is that?" He said, "Take out your earplugs." I said, "I don't want to." Joking, but I really do not want to believe what I was hearing. Are you freaking kidding me? I'm in another horror movie? And it's not a movie. The trees were being shaken violently and threatening. It was about 20 feet away, and it lasted 4 to 5 minutes before going completely quiet. No sounds whatsoever. It was a new moon, and it was pitch dark. No sound of it moving in the tree, nothing. This was the horrifying thing, when you're desperately trying to get information on something and it gives you nothing. And the creek nearby was also quiet, as they can turn off all the sound somehow. I remember thanking God that my neck did not make any noise, and I turned my neck, and that is how freaked out I was. We did not move or speak. We posted 4 trail cams that day, and none of them was in our area, of course. At 55, this is the worst experience I've ever had. As I realized the terror/adrenaline/unknown in me was removing my strength to fight, I knew I had to stop fearing or it would give me a heart attack or reduce my ability to fight. I did not have my gun. Matt had a .22 pistol. I had my headlight in my hand that I held ready to turn on. As I waited for this monster to jump my tent at any second, I was resolved to see it before it killed me. I must see it. Maybe 20 minutes sitting staring into the dark and deaf by the quietness, another thing happens. Something slowly floats past our tent. It had no steps. It had a digital / cricket sound. Tone was dit, 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 dit. 3 to 4 beeps, start to stop. Matt spoke under his breath. It's moving towards the camp, where we had a fire. I was up and done at that point. I heard it. Now what, an alien? I knew I could not let it terrorize me anymore. I knew I had to maintain strength to fight by hand if needed. I ignored it. When you're about to die, you learn to get real. I lay down, and if I heard myself breathe, I'd wake up to make sure I had the headlight properly gripped, ready to turn it on. I laid there trying to figure out if we could walk out back to back. Matt had his .22 pistol. I felt if we did not move, it had to make the first move, so we held our place. Well, that would suck. That'd suck. Here's some weird stuff. When the beeping thing floated by, Matt said it reached into him and tried to get him to vocalize. He felt it was vibrating his vocal cords for him. He was really messed up. He was really messed with and tripping. He said he held his mouth tightly closed because he was afraid it was trying to get his location. Our tent was between 2 large rocks, so I think we were hidden. I did feel like they were looking for us. Oh, sorry. It did feel like they were looking for us. Matt also felt he was about to stop his own heart. He had stopped breathing completely and realized he better breathe. This is the amount of fear and terror it was pushing on us. It really pissed me off to realize it was that mean to us. It wanted us to die. So these things are not a joke or some fun hobby. You better be 100% in your spirit and beliefs if you want to go out at night with them. Also, you better be ready to die. If you've not had any near-death experiences, you better stay out of the woods at night. I've had 3 more near-death moments. They help you accept death, and therefore learn not to fear. Sometime later, the nightmare started to fade. Around daylight, a woodpecker spent all of an hour praising the hell about something as it ran away. Around daylight, a woodpecker spent all of an hour raising hell about something as it ran away. I knew we made it. When the morning light comes, it is like you're reborn after something like that. This was the most horrifying near-death experience I've ever had. Matt thinks he almost died from fear. I think this was really his first real near-death experience. I've given you the basics of my experience. Matt and I both sat down and did the full story. If you can share a link to my stories, I would appreciate it. As you do warn people, do not go into the woods at night if you do not have heavy firepower, as I do believe they can easily kill you. We do visit the area during the day, and we are gifting and such as therapy. It is important that you learn how to get back into the woods. It is important that you get over your fears. I do believe we are human, light man, and we are divine man. We are the only creature that God code/signature has. We're the only creature that has God code/signature in our DNA. Bigfoot and these 5D creatures can see the light in us, our souls. If you're not spiritually alive, the light is dim. They don't mind killing a dead man, but they will back off the strong spirit man because it is right and they know it. Stand, do not fear. They know you are divine, but if you don't know that, then you are food. Sorry for the truth, that is how I see it. One side note, when we came back home, my wife said that we were white as a ghost for about 2 days. She had to walk around the house gingerly so she would not freak us out. Thank you for a place to tell our story. I need to have Matt write his story. He got brain effed bad. Jim and Matt, you can use our names. All right, man. That was a long one. And you know what? I got about 3/4 through that, you guys, and I realized I read it before. Go figure. You know what sucks is I think a lot of you guys send me emails to both email addresses, and then as I'm copying and pasting in the notes, that's how they get double slipped in there, and it's kind of an inconvenience, isn't it? Appreciate you guys sending in their emails, though. But I sure wish everybody would just send it once. That would really save a lot of time, you know. All right, here we go. Let me get some more shared. I got so many. This is titled Bigfoot Story. I have 15 plus years with the Sheriff Rescue Organization in San Francisco Bay Area, California. 35 years as a firefighter and technical rescue instructor. Sorry for the misspelling. In April 2000, we were dispatched to a redwood grove to search for a 5-year-old boy from Saudi Arabia. He was visiting his relatives in Santa Cruz, California. Apparently, he was so in awe of the trees and forests, he took off running and got lost. The family didn't realize he was gone for 3 hours. It was a Friday and decent temperature. Some search crews were out about midnight. 80 people were dispatched to the area in the morning. 80 searchers responded. At 8 a.m., the kid was found. When asked what did he do last night and where did he stay, he stated, this big, hairy man kept him warm and fed him berries. The kid was taken to the hospital and he was okay. End of story. Holy shit, another one, right? Another kid goes missing and gets taken care of all night long. Kind of goes against what the fallen angels would probably do, possibly, right? You never know. I wonder how many search and rescue people come across that same story of children having that happen. I think it's more than a few times now, right? Yeah, it's getting cold. It's driving me crazy not bombing around every road around here and going snooping. Maybe tomorrow I will. Temperature's dropping, sun's disappearing. Mark this as red. All right, this is titled The Truth. Hi, Steve. Hope this finds you and your family in good health in this crazy world we are living in today. I have respect and admiration for what you're doing to get people the chance to hear the truth. Let them take it and make their own common sense decisions. A little about myself. I was born in '66 in Ontario and moved to New Brunswick in '79. I grew up on a farm in the country where we raised cows, pigs, chickens, turkeys, and also grew our own vegetables. I shot my first whitetail buck when I was 13 years old. Grew up hunting and respecting nature. And I'm still living on the farm and pursuing the outdoors. I've been a big lad my whole life. When I was graduated in '86, I was 6'3", 275 pounds of pure muscle. I tell you this because my whole life I've been big. This gives me a good perspective on judging the size from usually being the biggest guy in the building. I've had many experiences throughout my life with orbs, UFOs, and Sasquatch. I became a heavy equipment mechanic, which brought me to all different levels and environments. I've worked underground mining. I've drove the biggest haul trucks in the world. I've drove log truck, dump truck, just about any piece of equipment going. So I've had lots of outdoor experience from the mountains in Alberta to the Atlantic Ocean. Now here's what happened. In 2007, I sold my business and wanted to go to Alberta to make some big money. It was hard to drive a tandem truck with a big water tank on it to build the ice over the roads for the winter road, going from just outside of Conklin, Alberta, cutting across the bush into northern Saskatchewan, which was very remote. And the only time this road could be in for the travel was in the wintertime. These roads travel through muskeg and all kinds of different drainages. The road that we put in is approximately 20 feet wide, so you have to call on the radio whether you're loaded going in or loaded going out, because the trucks basically cannot pass on this road, only when the conditions are absolutely at their best. Myself and my two co-workers, who each operated a water truck, were lined up to take water on our trucks so we could go and distribute it on the road. Myself being the first truck to fill up, the other two trucks waiting in single file behind my truck to finish. Being typical truck drivers, we had 15 minutes for the trucks to load before we had to move them, so we all stood outside our trucks on the road and did what the truck drivers do while in the bush, which is bullshit, the dirtiest jokes that we could think of. Out my side eye view, I seen movement, and when I looked down the road to my east, there was what I thought was a moose standing face on in the middle of the road, looking at us. Immediately, I told the other two to have a look, in which they did. It was about 3 seconds into the glance that I realized this had to be the biggest, tallest moose I've ever seen, and my two buddies were also talking the same thing. Let's figure. Okay, sorry, there's a few typos here. This figure was 350 meters from us, just standing there until it moved. Now, being that we are the ones that built the road, we know it is 20 feet wide, and we also know the snowbanks on each side of the road are 4 feet high. And this thing had to be 12 feet tall and 5.5 feet wide. You imagine seeing that? And I have worked, I've pipelined way up north, and I've been on those ice roads many times. I can't imagine seeing that standing there on one of those roads. We watch with concern and disbelief as we see moose out there all the time, because we come across wolf kills on the road just about every morning. This thing on 2 legs took 1 stride and was at the edge of the snowbank. Once it turned to walk to the bank, it did not pause or look back. All 3 of us were clearly concerned in disbelief and looking for something we missed, because this thing was way too big. The first thought that came into my mind was that it had to be the biggest effing trapper in the world. That's what was going through my head, but I knew it wasn't possible. Too big, too tall, too wide. While my truck loaded before I got in the move, and I told the boys I was going down there. There's no commas and periods, all right, you guys? I told the boys I was going down there, and I was going to see where it went in the woods and where it came out of the woods, and I was going to go look for tracks. And I wanted them to stay on the radio while I drove down in case I got into trouble. I drove up to 20 feet where I seen the disturbance in the snowbank from one side to the other. I was only concentrating on the north side of the road, which it went into the woods, and sat there for a few moments, not scared. Okay, there's no periods or commas, all right? So bear with me. Which it went into the woods and sat there for a few moments, not scared but concerned. I talked to my other coworkers and instructed them to come up and pull up behind me when they were done, and I would get out of the truck and have a look. When my first buddy arrived with his truck, he parked it 10 feet behind my truck on the road, and my truck was directly opposite of where it went in the bank. I could sit in my truck, look straight out my side window at the path going into the woods, and had a clear view of the path before I lost it in the woods about 150 feet, so I could tell it had kept going. I jumped down from the truck, and the other driver got out of his truck, which was behind me, walked up to my truck, jumped into the driver's seat, rolled the window up, and locked the door, not wanting any part of what was going to happen. I just told him to watch my back. If he'd see anything, roll the window down and yell. If you see anything real dangerous, hold on to the air horn. Now, for putting roads through the middle of the muskeg in the middle of nowhere, if any of you have seen a bulldoze road roughed, it's quite a path of destruction. Well, this path in the snow reminded me of a bulldozer going through the woods, roughly 4 feet wide. It had just basically stepped over the hard snowbank, and then, excuse me, I think I just ate a bug, and then to the soft snow of approximately 3.5 feet, which is in the wood and muskeg areas. I could not see anything in the muskeg. I could not smell anything either. I had to get in about 15 feet from the bank, and I could tell in the snow it was on 2 feet, but I could not see any toes. It just looked like a big boot print that had been filled in, and did not look right to me. I wear a size 13 boot. They are 75 below zero. Okay, so he's got boots that qualify for 75 below zero. So his boots are actually 15.5 inches long and 6 inches wide. And whose ever feet or boots marks that were left in the snow were a good 8 inches longer and 3 inches wider. Holy shit. All the hair on my body had just turned to wire. I could not believe what I was looking at. I wasn't scared at this point, more like shock. I turned around, looked at my coworker, and gave them a thumbs up, which he rolled the window down far enough to say it's all clear. I then proceeded further in to about the 30-foot mark where I could see partial footprint, and this is when I got scared, and I mean scared, trembling. I got out my flip phone, which back in 2007 had pretty shitty cameras, but a camera no less. I was just starting to put the phone out over the track when this vibration hit me. It was like my whole body was reacting to this vibration, and then I heard the growl, and I mean like it came out of the bottom of a big pit. I was terrified and lifting my head to look. I heard a scream behind me and a snap in front of me, like dry wood being snapped over your knee. When I finally seen what was making the noise, I just about shit my pants. About 200 feet away. What is this? Sorry. About 200 feet away, what is this being the same color as a moose holding a black spruce tree, which was snapped off about 10 feet high? The big arm stretched from the shoulder. I was leaving. The sound of the screaming and the air horn going off behind me, I could not help myself. Phone in hand, I turned and ran for my life. I jumped on the side of the truck, beat on the door, and told the operator to open the door for me. I jumped in, released the air brakes, put the truck in gear, and tore out of there. I was shaking. I was vibrating. I was feeling sick to my stomach, and I was scared, and so was my buddy, who was in shock and having a bad day. Well, I never stopped for 3 kilometers and came to a cross intersection and parked the truck. I asked my buddy what the F was that, and he said either Bigfoot or the devil himself. Now, we just didn't know. I was pretty sure what it was from the past experiences, but this was the first face-to-face contact I had. After 15 minutes has gone by, the other operator had hollered for us to come up and take the truck out of the road as we had the road blocked. I instructed him we were on the way and we would move the truck and not for him to get out of the truck. We told him it was a big bear, which he said, yeah, right. Anyway, I drove up to the truck. The operator would not get out of his truck, but was willing to slide over behind the wheel of mine when I got out and got his truck, and we got out of there. I had no fear when I got out of the truck. I could tell it was gone. That pressure that you talk about was not there at this time like it was at first. Anyway, the other driver that's seen it would not talk about it. He didn't want to be ridiculed, and then sorry, there's a few typos, and he thought it was a big grizzly. End of his story. This seems to be the people's way of dealing with the unknown and beyond their way of thinking. I myself am more curious than ever. I want to educate people so they can make their own choice. There are things that go bump in the night. I'm going to tell you what I've seen, Steve, and I'm a good judge of the size, and I know this to be true. So this is how I would describe it to anyone. It was every bit of 12 feet tall, considering I had a good 20 seconds. I have a sight of it while it stood in the middle of the road, and being a hunter, if it's under 1 kilometer, I'm within yards of most of my calls now, saying it was at least 12 feet tall, 5.5 feet wide on the shoulders, wide. It didn't have any neck, but had massive, massive shoulders that were shaped just like a big power lifter. Steve, at this time I was 380 pounds, and I had 24-inch biceps, which are as big as most people's thighs. I can tell you without a doubt, arms between 36 and 40 inches around, and a forearm that had to be 28 to 30 inches around. This thing was massive. It had different length of fur, which was very unkempt and matty looking from 6 inches long to 3 inches to hardly any on the face, especially around the nose and the eyes, and the bridge of the forehead, which was sloped, but not like a gorilla's forehead. Now, I estimate the head was 16 to 18 inches wide, and the eyes were 9 to 8 inches apart, which, from my experience with whitetail bucks, is a good mature buck's ears are 16 inches apart at their widest tip to tip. That gives you a good reference point when you look at them, and their ears are out as far as possible. Judge the rack width, so I'm very close to my description. The eyes were black, big, saucer-like, heavily into the skull, and a nose that was every bit of as 7 inches wide. No teeth showing. Some gray on the chin area, but mostly a chocolatey moose color. I can also tell you from the mass of this creature, it was easily 1,600 to 2,000 pounds, without a doubt in my mind, completely massive male. The tree it snapped off was approximately 6 to 8 inches in diameter where it had been snapped, and this was a spruce tree. This was more human than you can believe. I often pondered about people saying in their emails that it was more human looking than ape. Let me say this is definitely a relative of ours, or it is what is left of Neanderthal. I'll give you this, and I did not hear any mind speak, but by that vibration growl, I knew it wanted me to leave, and I know it wasn't scared of me. I have other stories I'll send in, but I want to tell the listeners something. When people write about their experience and they say they've seen portals or a shimmering object, take a moment to think about this. I'm looking at my cat laying on my table in front of the picture window. Now the cat knows it can't smell through the window. It can't taste through the window, but it can see through the window. I can't feel the wind through the window and cannot feel the rain through the window or the cold. The cat knows this, but the cat also knows sometimes that window gets opened and then it can go through the window like a portal. Now you see where I'm going with this? The cat knows there's something there, but he's probably not calling it a portal. Now let's say humans of higher intelligence who created that window, and by opening and closing it, makes this a portal for the cat. It's just a window, but to the cat it might be a portal. Just as the next level of intelligence on a different level or a plane than us might use these portals that we see as a simple window that the cat sees. Anyway, Steve, I hope you stay healthy and pursue your passions and get the truth out there, because everyone has a right to know what goes bump in the night. Best wishes from the East Coast, Mikey. That's quite the frickin' experience, man, and I've been on those same roads, so you put me right there. But it's what takes me back a little bit is your description, man. You got a good long hardy looking at that thing, and we've had quite a few people describe seeing something similar. That frickin' huge. That's big. Isn't that just frickin' huge? It's funny, when I was pipelining, we were approximately 100 and something miles north of Fort Nelson, right on the Northwest Territories border, and middle of nowhere. Ice roads the whole way. Stunted spruce, not much big timber, but there's tons of life out there. Everywhere you go, there's moose, there's caribou, there's wolverine, there's wolves, there's lynx. Lots of animals out there, lots of life. I'll never forget that time when that welder told me that he was there when those two guys were stuck up the tower in the nighttime on the lease, terrified because this huge 10, 12 foot looking thing kept walking all the way around the lease and squatting and looking up at them. They said the National Enquirer went up there to try to get a scoop on the story, and 5 or 6 other news crews were up there trying to get the scoop on the story, because these guys shit themselves and made a big frickin' episode about it, what they've seen, right? But anyway, it's getting freezing, getting cold. I can't wait to go explore. I'll take all you guys with me when I do. It should be the next couple days anyway. I really want to go down this road and see if I can hit the edge of the ocean, but I know if I do, I'm going to be real late getting home. So I better turn around now and go home, and I'll come back here again. And, looks to be some big first growth timber down there. That's what I like to see and be in, so. We'll check this out later, and I'll be back with more and sharing more. Keep mailing them in, all right? I'll see you guys later on.